Warning, the following content might make you shocked.
Epic drop.
Top 5.
Slapnuts.
That girl is.
Welcome to another edition of Wake Up America, Wake Up. Slapnuts in the Spotlight, Episode 6. Coming in at number 1 is Vice President and Democratic presidential nominee KamalaHarris, who is facing a harsh reality as her campaign's honeymoon period draws to a close. Those able to see past the mainstream media's propaganda can recognize that the Harris campaign is built on a precarious foundation, despite her abysmal 3% polling in the 2020 presidential race. Both the left and some on the right are attempting to portray her as the next political sensation. However, the desperate and chaotic actions taken by her team reveal a campaign in total turmoil. In a surprising shift, Kamala Harris's campaign has suddenly taken a more aggressive stance on border issues. Of course, she's denied that she's the border czar, but we all know that that's what she was. We all know that she hasn't been to Europe planning or had ever been to the southern border. Remember this?
Border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe.
Anyway, in a contentious move, Kamala Harris has openly endorsed the elimination of taxes on tips for service workers, a policy that was originally put forward by Trump. Her announcement of support for this idea during a rally in Las Vegas has ignited a firestorm of criticism, with many questioning the originality and self-assurance of her campaign strategy. By adopting a policy from a political adversary rather than presenting a unique platform, Harris has raised doubts about the strength and independence of her campaign's vision. Kamala Harris's campaign is found wanting when it comes to a distinctive platform. A visit to her website reveals nothing more than a donation button, biographies of her and Governor Walz, and a shop selling merchandise. The absence of innovative ideas coupled with the imitation of Trump's policies could be interpreted as a glaring weakness. Successful campaigns are known for their unique messaging and policies, not for borrowing from their opponents. Moreover, Harris's pivot towards right-wing populism risks transforming the race into a competition of who can better embody these ideals.
You better thank a union member for sick leave. You better thank a union member for paid leave. You better thank a union member for vacation time.
This strategic shift may end up alienating her traditional progressive base while attempting to woo undecided or swing voters, potentially leading to a precarious balancing act that could undermine her campaign's stability. These simply aren't the moves of a confident campaign that is sailing to victory, more like a campaign with an identity crisis. And after 3.5 years of being vice president of the United States, how can you sit there and say that you're going to change all the issues, the border crisis, inflation, crime, when in that 3.5 year period as vice president, you didn't do nothing? And you expect us to believe that you can fulfill these promises in the next 4 years? No. This is why KamalaHarris is the Slapnuts in the spotlight. At number 2 is Congresswoman coribush, a Democrat representing Missouri's 1st Congressional District, or at least she was.
Look at this.
I call her the Predator, as her most recent photo portrays, has gone on a rampage because she lost her primary. Maybe she had her braids a little too tight. I don't know. The downfall of Congresswoman coribush can be traced back to her inflammatory rhetoric and alliances with far-left faction of the Democratic Party, her consistent bashing of America, her relentless attacks on law enforcement, and her cozy relationship with the Radical Squad have made her a lightning rod for controversy. Bush, along with other progressive Democrats, have found themselves in the crosshairs of pro-Israeli groups like AIPAC. Thanks to her inflammatory comments about the Jewish state and her vocal support for pro-Palestinian protests amid the Israeli-Hamas war. While the majority of the Democrats remain steadfast in their support for Israel, a small but vocal subset of the party, led by figures like Bush, has called for a ceasefire and an end to Israeli occupation, further fueling flames of division and controversy. The Missouri Congresswoman found herself facing a storm of criticism from her constituents over her controversial position on public safety, i.e., the defunding of police forces across the United States.
So if I end up spending $200,000, if I spend $10 more on it, you know what? I get to be here to do the work. So suck it up, and defunding the police has to happen. We need to defund the police.
Her voting record in Congress has raised eyebrows, and a Justice Department investigation into allegations that she paid her husband as her security detail has only added fuel to the fire. Despite her denial of any wrongdoing, these scandals have left a cloud of suspicion hanging over her head and have further eroded her support base, making her position increasingly unattainable. And a total slapnuts in the spotlight. You're out of there, Predator. See ya. At number 3, it was either going to be Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg or NFL Washington Commanders Vice President of Content, Real Etienne, who has proven once again that it's never a good idea to open your mouth and insert your foot. The team has swiftly fired him just a day after suspending him for making deeply offensive remarks about NFL players, fans, and others. It seems Etienne's career in the league has come to a screeching halt, thanks to his poor judgment and insensitivity.
Okay, just walk me through again your breakdown, your description of the Commanders players.
Over 50% of our roster, right, is either white religious and God says fuck the gays.
Real Etienne, a 4-year veteran of the Washington Commanders, has been brought down by his own words, captured on undercover videos by the O'Keefe Media Group, or OMG. The recordings, which were shared on social media, reveal Etienne making deeply disturbing comments about NFL players, fans, and others. In a statement, the Commanders made it clear that language used in the videos is in direct opposition to their organization's values.
Most of the fans, I would say, are high school educated alcoholics.
Most NFL fans are high school educated alcoholics?
Yeah.
Really?
The recordings were made during dates with a woman working for the O'Keefe Media Group, and the interviews took place over 2 dates in June in Washington, D.C. Etienne had initially connected with this woman on the dating app Hinge, because he was looking for the swift fallout from these revelations has cost him his job, his career in the NFL, which some thought was going to hang in the balance because he was suspended. But baby, he was fired. Oh my God. A teen said in the videos that NFL fans were high school educated alcoholics and also disparaged players. Commissioner Roger Goodell and Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones. Now, I mean, I can understand if he was being disparaging towards the Cowboys owner, Jerry Jones, right? But his boss, Roger Goodell, oh man, you don't shit where you eat. And that's exactly what he did. Let me tell you some of the things that he said. He says, over 50% of our roster is either white religious and says God F the gays in their interpretation. Another big chunk is very low income African Americans that come from a community that is inherently very homophobic. He goes on to say that he loves hip hop, but that hip hop is very homophobic. It's a cultural thing that I hope gets better, right? Atlanta is a very interesting demographic. It's southern, but there's a very gay black community. I would say more than 50% are probably homophobic, and the remaining, let's say 49%, are not necessarily homophobic, but that doesn't mean that they want to go on record with a video saying, come out to Pride Parade.
Another big chunk is very low income African American that comes from a community that is inherently very homophobic.
Now, reality, you know, I get it. You were on a pussy hunt and you were trying to impress your date and you revealed who you truly are. Now, what I'm wondering is the NFL players and the fans, you know, whether they're going to dox him and actually, you know, share, you know, their feelings on what he said. You know, because obviously the guy opened his mouth, he put his foot in, and all that garbage, you know, everything that he felt in his heart, everything that truly made him, you know, the VP of content came out. So my friend, reality, you are the Slapnuts in the spotlight and you got busted, son of a bitch. Ha! Way to go, OMG.
School board gonna fix everything, it's true. They're gonna put tampons in the boys' room.
In the number 4 spot is TimWalz, or Tampon Tim for short. Now, I can go on forever, you know, addressing what it is that people find with respect to his career in the military, a stark contrast to what the Democratic Party is saying about him. Now, there is talk of stolen valor. There is talk about a lawsuit in which money was fraud. Money that should have been used for children was fraudulently funneled into something that he's involved in. If he can explain to us, you know, what do high school boys do with those tampons in the boys' bathrooms, and where do they put them? And I really, there's not really much to say about this guy, other than that he is the vice presidential nominee for the Democratic Party, behind, you know, the Democratic nominee for president of the Democratic Party, KamalaHarris. There's a lot of controversy when it comes to TimWalz, all right? And one of the things that I find very strange is that his family has come out against him, saying that he is the wrong person to be trusted with the welfare of this nation, even in the capacity as a vice president. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on him because I know that if I do, that the Facebook police, the community standard fact checkers will say that, I'm passing on information that is false and inaccurate. That's why I didn't say much. Because one of the things that was removed from one of my postings about TimWalz was that during a martial law in his state, which I didn't say that, he pushed it or that, he flipped the switch and said, hey, we're going to martial law. What I said was that he understands what martial law is, but they said that was misinformation and, they took down that post. And most of the time, these posts, that I share are from other news organizations or people that have actual footage, because I think the reason why they took it down was that the militant arm of the police department had fired upon a family that was sitting on their porch when they were told to get inside and they didn't want to. And, that's what I found disturbing, that this was happening, under his watch. Not that he invoked martial law, but it happened under his watch. But anyway, TimWalz, or Tampon Tim for short, is the Slapnuts in the spotlight. And he'll never be vice president of the United States, unfortunately.
Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Walz.
When it comes to making waves, Amandlastenberg is the real force to be reckoned with. This multifaceted artist and activist has been hailed as one of the most incendiary voices of her generations by Dazed magazine. And for good reason. When she's not making music, Amandla is making waves on social media, fearlessly tackling issues like cultural appropriation and the vitriol, prejudice, hatred, and fateful language that the cast of her Disney Plus series, The Acolyte, faced from internet trolls, according to her. Her 2014 school project video, Don't Cash Crop My Cornrows, went viral and sparked a national conversation about the issue, cementing her status as one of the most influential and outspoken voices of her time.
Not only were white people becoming rappers, but they were excelling in the world of hip-hop.
Amandlastenberg's dual roles as twins Osha and May in The Acolyte were meant to showcase her incredible range and talent, but instead they became a lightning rod for the relentless vitriol of so-called fans whose hatred and prejudice knew no bounds. In a powerful and emotional Instagram stories post, Stenberg opened up about her experience and the toll that it took on her, explaining that she felt compelled to speak out to honor her value system and stand up against the toxic and abusive behavior she faced from those who claimed to be her supporters. Now, I find that very interesting, that if her supporters are the ones that are coming out against, her dual role as the Acolyte, because obviously, look, Star Wars is one of those things that is embedded in history, okay? LucasArts produced something that when it took off in the 70s, it became part of history. And so you have a lot of Star Wars fans. Now, in the original Star Wars, it wasn't about transgender rights. It wasn't about the LGBTQ+. It wasn't about any of those things. But unfortunately, that is what this series, The Acolyte, focused on. And that's why people are very upset, because they were hoping that The Acolyte would resemble something very similar to the original Star Wars series, where, there was a plot. Okay, there were heroes and villains. But it just took on a culture of itself with respect to, what The Acolyte was representing. It definitely did not represent anything Star Wars like, okay? She goes on to say, I'm going to be really transparent. Wow. And say that it's not a huge shock for me. Steinberg told her fans of the show's cancellation after one season. Yeah, because it sucked. It sucked. You know, I happened to tune in and watch the part where, you know, these witches were talking about. I mean, it was, oh my God. It's not even worth talking about. But let us say that it took on the form of more transgender rhetoric, or you know, LGBTQ plus ideologies. It had nothing to do with Star Wars. It really had nothing to do with it. Anyway, she goes on, of course, I live in a bubble of my own reality. Thank God she admits that. But for those who aren't aware, there has been a rampage of vitriol that we have faced since the show was even announced, and when it was still a concept. No one had even seen it. That's when we started experiencing a rampage of, I would say, hyper-conservative bigotry, vitriol, prejudice, hatred, and hateful language toward us. No, my dear, what you are facing is called criticism. Criticism because of that debauchery that Disney created in this one-season series, The Acolyte. It was a slap in the face to a lot of Star Wars fans. That is the reason why people dislike it. But, I mean, why are you worried about it? I mean, you are known for your incendiary talk, right? You are the voice of your generation, and you can't take that criticism? Well, nut up, girl, okay? Take the criticism, okay? The show sucked. You sucked. The expectations that Star Wars fans were anticipating, once they knew what it was all about, it was all about a social platform message. And nobody wanted to hear that shit. So, my dear, that's why you are a Slapnuts in the spotlight.